I want to start with your dad.
Yes.
That seems like a good place to start.
Right.
So, how old were you when he went up?
I was in 8th grade.
So you remember it pretty...
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah. So one of the things I heard, there was quite a long time it took before he kept delaying it, and of course you had all the space race and the Russians beating us. What did you... Were you living at home then?
When Daddy was selected in 1959, he took me out into the driveway in the front of our house in the daytime, and he told me that I needed to look in the northeast for a shiny round ball. What are you talking about, Daddy? We used to go out in the backyard in the dark and look for constellations. He said, nope, this is something that I need to see if we can see it. And we did. We saw Sputnik, which was the Russian rocket that went around the world. Didn't have anyone in it. Daddy was furious. He was so angry, and I thought maybe I had said something wrong. But no, he said, this is not good, Laura. This is done by the Russians, and now we are in a space race with the Russians. So that's kind of what started it. I remember that very vividly. I remember when he was selected, he called a family meeting, and he told us that he was going to not work for NASA, for the Navy anymore. He wasn't going to work for the Navy. He was going to work for NASA. He was going to be an astronaut. And I think I was 6th grade then, and my sisters were 3rd grade. What's an astronaut, Daddy? Well, this is what he told us. They're going to take me. See, he already knew they were going to take him. And they're going to put me into a capsule, and they're going to put that spacecraft on top of a rocket. They're going to blast me up into space, and I will come back to Earth safely. Oh, he was so excited about it. He was just like a little kid. Wow, we had not a clue what he was talking about.
Would you describe, sounds like you would, your dad is a competitive person, pretty obviously, to say the least.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's how I am. I got it from him.
So, staying with the space, and then I want to transition into your space experience and then bring golf into this. But so, the first American in space, how does that, when you look at that today, how do you even, did your father understand that during his lifetime, just the magnitude of being the first? That's like Christopher Columbus.
Yep. He knew it was a big deal. One thing that comes to mind that really may not even be what you want me to say, but when Daddy passed away, Al Newharth was the guy who started USA Today. And Daddy and Al were good friends. And he called my mother, said he wanted to have a statue made of Daddy. And what space uniform did she want Daddy to wear, the statue to wear? And Mother said, the first one. He was more proud of that than being the 5th man on the moon. He would have been more proud of being the first man on the moon, I know, but he was already the first American in space. So that was more important to him.
Now let's talk about the golf shot, the famous. First of all, did he have to keep that a secret, or was that known that he was bringing this?
He had to talk to NASA about it.
Okay, so it wasn't like he snuck it on.
No, the museum, USGA, says that he snuck it on. He had to get permission. Yeah. Apollo 14 was Daddy's mission to the moon, and it followed Apollo 13. And Apollo 13 had explosions. I don't remember what it was that exploded, but they went all the way to the moon, but they couldn't land. They had to come back. And so that was, NASA was very concerned about that. So they said, no, you can't do it. Well, Daddy was persistent. And he said, if there's something that's wrong, if we don't get things done on our mission, then I won't do it. But if our mission is good when we're on the moon, would it be okay if I did it right before we got into the lunar lander? And they said yes. Do you know where he got the idea?
No.
Well, Daddy and Bob Hope are good friends. And I don't know if you ever watched any of Bob Hope on television.
Sure.
But he always had a driver. Mm-hmm. So he told Daddy that he wanted to be made weightless so he could feel what it was like. And so Daddy arranged for Bob Hope to become weightless at NASA in Houston. So while he's up there bouncing around, it's just something, these straps that they wrap around you and then they lift you just like your toes are still touching. So Bob asked one of his assistants to hand him his golf club. So here's Bob Hope trying to swing, with two hands, his driver at NASA. And Daddy is like, the light went on. I'm going to do that on the moon.
Miles and miles and miles.
So that's where the idea came from.
Oh, that's great.
It is.
Yeah. Well, Bob Hope certainly loved golf. That's for sure. So, yeah.
He definitely did.
Okay. So, staying with your dad, was he an avid golfer? I assume he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was his handicap? Was he a good golfer?
Oh, I don't, I wasn't into golf, so
Okay.
I don't know. But, well, he had he was invited to the Bing Crosby tournaments way back when they had those clam bakes. And then when that ended, then AT&T invited him. And he thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah. He really did.
Yeah.
But he traveled a lot even after he finished with NASA. People wanted him to give talks, and I'm learning all about that now.
Yeah, great. Okay, so now let's talk about Blue Origin and your opportunity to follow in his footsteps or whatever his... Oh, by the way, is it true that he said, light this candle?
Yes, he said that. After the 4 hours of being on his back in that little spacecraft, he said, okay, you guys, you've got to fix this little problem and light this candle. He was a little mad, impatient. I want to get this over with.
Well, yeah, we get a little frustrated when we're in the tarmac waiting to get the gateway or whatever, on an airplane, 4 hours, and he couldn't move.
No,
I mean, literally could not move.
He was totally strapped in to his knees and his waist.
I think John Glenn described it as, you don't get into it, you wear it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like putting it...
tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some of those model capsules that Daddy used at NASA, not NASA, Kennedy in Florida, and you can climb in it. It doesn't have any of the instruments or anything. It's so small, you don't even know how they put all the instruments in the seat in it.
Yeah, you couldn't be claustrophobic.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you first hear about Blue Origin, and tell us how that all came about?
Well, Jeff Ashby was a 5-time shuttle astronaut who was born and raised in Evergreen. And I knew him, I knew his mother, and knew his family. He called me, I think it was 2017 or 2018, and asked me if I'd be interested in going for a ride in a spacecraft built by Jeff Bezos. And I thought, because I'd never heard of the New Shepard. And he told me what it was, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, well, I really think I need to talk to my family about that. I wasn't very excited about it. So then I called him back and I said, I would like a tour of the plant in Washington just to see what is really this is all about. And so that's when I got to see the spacecraft, see where they made it, got to sit in the spacecraft, got all the whole information, and then I heard about they were going to make the New Glenn, which is almost as big as a Saturn V. And I thought that, well, this isn't bad. This is kind of fun. So that was about the last time I, did anything. But last June, I went to the 50th anniversary of Apollo 14 in Cape Canaveral. And the people who were sponsoring it were from a group called Back to Space. And they were just charming, lovely people. And we were having dinner one night in Florida. And we were talking about Blue Origin and the New Shepard rocket, how exciting that must be. And I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if a real Shepard got to ride on the New Shepard? And that's really all that I said. But in September, I got the phone call asking if I wanted to ride in the New Shepard, and I said yes, right away.
So maybe you're advocating for yourself.
Never hurts to speak your mind.
Yeah. So that was just September of
last year.
Because
I went up in December of last year.
So talk about that, the lead up from September to December, and what all went into that, what you had to do to prepare, and all that.
Well, it was the end of September. So when the man told me, we discussed what was going to need to be what I should be doing between now and December, and he said I couldn't tell anybody. That was the hardest part of this whole journey. I knew I was going to do this, and I couldn't tell anybody.
Not even your family?
I did get permission.
Okay.
We had to sign our life away. I have several non-disclosure agreements, so I could tell my children and my husband. But that was it. And then just kind of went about my life, getting all the paperwork with Blue Origin. Fred was measured me so that they could create my flight suit that fit me pretty well. They just had to shorten the sleeves. And then on the 23rd of November is when they announced who was going to be going into space. And that's when it got a little bit crazy around here. Then, I met Dylan Taylor, who lives in Denver. He's one of the crewmates. He actually texted me and asked if he could fly Fred and me down to Van Horn, Texas in his plane. That was fun, as opposed to connecting through Houston to go to El Paso. So what a way to start our adventure.
Just because he wanted to meet you?
No, he was flying down, and he was just going to be generous.
Give you a ride.
He was just going to be generous and take us down there.
So when I go up skiing, sometimes maybe I'll pick you up.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So did you have to do any physical, like your dad had to go through incredible physical stuff.
The NASA astronauts are professional astronauts.
Yeah.
Not quite sure. We're space travelers. That's how I look at it. But we had 2.5 days of sitting in our simulator, buckling up, and our trainer would close the door, and we would run through our 10-minute flight. And they had sounds, what it was going to sound like when we took off, what it was going to sound like when the rocket finally had pushed as hard as it was going to push and was going to slow a little bit. We would hear that sound. And then we would hear the sound of the separation. And then we would hear, I think it was the drones were next, and then the parachute, and then the landing. We'd probably practiced that 10-minute journey 12 to 15 times a day. getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out, learning how to do this, learning how to, we had oxygen. We had to learn how to do oxygen. We all had to learn how to open the door. Our training was very intense. And then our flight was postponed for a day and a half. So at breakfast the first morning, one of our crewmates, Evan Dick, asked who wanted to go flying in his plane. I raised my hand. So there were 4 of us, and we went for a good, 2-hour flight all around that part of Texas. Then after lunch that day, my husband was talking with Michael Strahan, and we got to play. We all played golf together. We played 9 holes. And it was what everybody needed, because the pressure is just building up, to this major thing that we're going to do. We had a day just to do absolutely nothing. It was great, because then when we went and had our last day of training, we were feeling a little bit better, like this is really going to be good. So I was really grateful for the postponement. But we were out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, why was it postponed? Was there just
high winds?
Oh, high winds. Okay.
And if you're up there and the parachutes are open, you have those fast high winds. It'll take the spacecraft miles away, and they wouldn't be able to get to us. Yeah. Right away.
So it's on the re-entry that you worry about that. Because going up, I don't imagine the wind's going to have a whole lot of influence on that rocket.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Okay. So now you're okay. Now let's go to launch day. You're locked and loaded. You didn't have to wait for 4 hours like your dad did.
No, we 5.
Did you say light this candle just for fun?
We have it. 5:45 in the morning. I got to say, I love you to my family. My whole family was able to be there. So we gave each other hugs. They went in for breakfast, and we went to the training room, got our flight suits on, and had a little bit of training about weightlessness. And then got in the cars that drove us out, and all of our family was lined up on either side. And they had cowbells. They were clapping, and we could wave to them as we drove by to the launch pad. Then we climbed up the 4 flights of stairs, and right across the top of the gantry, light this candle is printed.
Wow.
And so as we walk across the gantry, there's a big bell, and you have to ring the bell for good luck. And then you walk and crawl into the spacecraft. When we buckled up, and it was just like, I think they painted our training room walls to look like outdoors. It felt like where we had been for 3 days was amazingly comfortable. And I was in the new Shepard, so Daddy was there, and they let us choose our astronaut name. So Michael Strahan was Astronaut Stray, and I was Astronaut Weezer, which was a nickname for my mother. So I had my father and my mother with me.
Very nice.
And I couldn't wait for it to happen. So when they did the countdown on 8, 9, 7, that's when I yelled, "Light this candle!" They all wanted me to do it, and they kept saying, Laura, say it.
Okay, now 10 minutes. That's how long this was.
I know, it was too short.
Did it feel short? Oh, okay. It wasn't like the longest 10 minutes of your life.
No, it just flew by.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everything the simulator told you was or felt simulated happened.
We had earplugs that were made to fit us, because the sound can be so loud. Yeah. And the sounds were louder, like the separation of the booster from the spacecraft, that was loud. but we still were expecting it, so it was loud. It was real. But we weren't, bothered by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything.
Was the G-force in the simulator?
No, we didn't have G-force.
Okay. So
no, they couldn't do that.
So what was that? Because I get excited when an airplane takes off and it pushes you back in your chair. How would it compare to that?
Well, the launch reminded me of being with Daddy in his Corvette. And the road was miles and miles of straight and no cars. And Daddy would floor it. And he'd be forced back into the seat of the car. And that's what it felt like, only it was more forceful, but nothing that I was concerned with. It felt good. You knew this was a big rocket. You wanted it to feel like that. Right. And then coming down right after we were weightless, that you felt the 6 Gs.
That's like even more intense.
Yeah, because the first was it was 2 Gs. It wasn't much at all.
Yeah.
I could lift my arms off the armrest. But the 6 was pretty good. Pretty good. The astronauts get more than 6 Gs.
Yeah.
They get really lots.
Yeah.
We didn't have that much.
So now the weightlessness part, how long did you have to float around?
3 whole minutes. It's not very much.
Yeah.
But it was, all I was aware of was my mind. Because you don't feel your arms. They just can go and do whatever they want to do. And you float. I floated out of my seat, hanging on to my harness so that I wouldn't hit the ceiling. Because if you just push like that, you'll be across the spacecraft.
You might never get back to your
seat. Right. That's the truth.
Did you ever let go in the 3 minutes?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I did a handstand and a somersault.
Was there one of your crewmates that was particularly adventurous, or are you all pretty well?
You
didn't get any new nicknames from that 3 minutes?
No. And we had little blue footballs because of Michael.
Yeah.
And so they were throwing footballs.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. That was our trick. All astronauts have to do something.
No golf ball? You didn't bring your golf ball?
A golf ball would hurt.
Oh.
I did bring golf balls, though, in my bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, I did. Kyle from Hiwan.
Uh-huh.
He's getting one.
Nice.
We're having it framed. And the man who is at Sandhills.
Dick Youngscap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's getting one as well.
Very nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how has that experience changed you?
Oh, wow. I know everybody says it's going to change you, but I think I have been involved with space for 60 years. I've been to I don't know how many launches, don't know how many pictures I've seen and interviews. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I wish everyone could go into space.
Do you think that it created a deeper connection with your dad at all? Or do you think that was...
It's going to make me cry.
Yeah.
Well, I have thought of my parents a lot since then. And I tell people I love them more than I used to.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We should do that even if we don't leave the Earth.
Exactly.
All right. Well, speaking of love, I love golf.
Uh-huh.
I think you love golf too.
I enjoy it very much.
Do you love it?
Love it?
Oh, I love it.
I know. Well, you've been playing probably your whole life.
I have, yeah. So how much golf do you play?
Probably 2 times a week.
Okay, so a lot. Yeah. And what's your handicap, if you don't mind sharing?
You could probably look it
I
up.
probably could.
It's 18.
That's pretty good.
I get a stroke per hole,
Yes.
and I'm keeping it there.
Is it getting you trending up or down?
No, I'm trending down. I was a 14.
How many rounds do you think you've played?
I don't know.
Yeah.
As I said, I've only played 25 years, and
Some
it's
would
all been here.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Then some would say these greens defy gravity.
I mean, it is interesting. You aim over here, and you think you could do the ball this way. You think you could hit the ball and it's go in this way, but it will end up over here.
Yeah.
So you have to aim it up here to make it come down.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But everything is going down the hill, and you just have to find out where the hill is.
Right. Right. So you mentioned Michael Strahan.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems like one of the coolest people and incredibly charismatic. Mm-hmm. And it's funny you got to play golf with him. I didn't know he was a golfer. Just
really
talk
good.
about. Is he a good golfer?
Oh, yeah. He
Really?
can hit the ball like crazy.
Huh.
He and I were partners. The astronauts were the partners.
Yeah.
And when we got to the 9th hole, it was tied. And it was a par 5, and he's on in 2. And he 2-putted.
And you won.
And we won.
The astronauts win. He just seems like an incredibly charismatic person.
He is charming.
Yeah.
And it comes from within.
Yeah.
He was there for me if I needed any help. Like when we trained how to jump out of the spacecraft. If we landed and, the winds took us and we landed where nobody was, we would have to open the door and jump out. So he would go out first because he was the number 1 chair. I was the number 2 chair, so I was next. And so I looked, he was standing over here, and I looked and I said to myself, oh, I can do this. That's no big deal. And he goes, okay, Laura, jump. He was right there to catch me. He would always open the doors for me, in the cars or...
Yeah.
He's just a delightful man.
Have you stayed in touch with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have a text that we've had since, I don't know, since December 11th, that we every now and then text back and forth to somebody says something or does something.
Oh, that's great. Man, that was fun. I could just sit here and talk to you all day. Yeah.